knock came just after sunset, sharp and deliberate. Ellie froze mid-sentence at the dinner table, and I knew before I even opened the door who it would be. Karen, the self-appointed president of our little lakeside HOA, always wearing that smug grin like she had a court order in her back pocket. When I opened the door, she didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Jack," she said, her tone crisp, "the board has received several troubling reports about you." I leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "Reports? From who? You're the only one knocking on my door every week." Her smile thinned. "Neighbors are concerned about your background and your preparations." I felt my jaw clench. Nobody in this town knew the details of my past. That was the point. After 2 decades as a SWAT commander, I retired here to disappear into quiet, to fish, to rebuild the cabin, to let Ellie breathe. But the way Karen's eyes glittered in the porch light told me she knew something she shouldn't. "Stay out of my business," I warned. Karen tilted her head, feigning innocence. "I only want what's best for the community, but secrets don't stay buried forever, Jack. Not here." She turned on her heel and walked away, heels crunching on the gravel. Ellie came up behind me, whispering, "What did she mean by background?" I didn't answer. My mind was already racing. If Karen was digging, she wasn't doing it alone, and if she found out even a fraction of who I used to be, she'd try to use it. That night, long after Ellie was asleep, I sat by the window with my service pistol resting on the table. For years, I'd lived like my past was dead, but Karen had just put a shovel in the dirt. Cliffhanger. At midnight, headlights swept across the cabin walls, stopping outside. Then the engine cut, and everything went quiet. The silence after the engine cut was worse than the roar itself. I kill, at the lamp on the nightstand and crouched by the window, pistol steady in my hand. Years of training had drilled one truth into me: stillness reveals more than panic. Through the trees, the headlights dimmed, and a shadow moved toward the porch. Ellie stirred in the bedroom. "Jack, what's going on?" "Stay inside," I whispered. "Don't move until I tell you." I pressed my back against the wall, listening. Whoever was outside wasn't drunk or lost. Their footsteps were too careful, too deliberate. Whoever it was knew where they were going. The porch boards creaked. Then, a knock. Not Karen's sharp, arrogant knock. This was slower, testing, measuring. "Jack Carter," a man's voice, low and cold. "We need to talk." I didn't answer. Instead, I checked the hallway mirror angle to give me a view of the front door. 2 men, one tall, wiry, with a cap pulled low, the other heavier, standing back, hands hidden in his jacket. Not neighbors, not friendly. "Karen said you'd be stubborn," the taller one muttered. My stomach sank. Karen wasn't just digging, she was recruiting, and she'd found muscle. I swung the door open fast, gun raised. "Hands where I can see them." The wiry man smirked. "Old habits die hard, Commander." The way he said Commander froze me. This wasn't random. He knew. Ellie gasped behind me, peeking down the hallway. I stepped forward, gun unwavering. "Who sent you?" The heavier man chuckled. "You already know." Then, without warning, he tossed something onto the porch. A plain envelope. "Karen wants proof you're dangerous. We're here to collect it." They backed away slowly, grins plastered on their faces, as if they'd already won. I didn't lower my weapon until their engine rumbled back to life and faded into the night. Ellie rushed to me, eyes wide. "Jack, what did he call you? Commander, what's going on?" I opened the envelope. Inside was a single photo, me in tactical gear, shield raised, leading a raid years ago, an operation that was supposed to be classified. Karen had her shovel deeper than I thought, and now she wasn't just after my reputation. She was after evidence. Cliffhanger. The photo slipped from my hands, and on the back, scrawled in fresh ink, were 3 words that made my blood run cold. "You're not safe." I stared at those 3 words. "You're not safe." My hands clenched before I even realized it. Whoever wrote that message wasn't bluffing. They knew where I lived, who I was, and more importantly, what I had done. Ellie stood frozen behind me. Jack, tell me this isn't what I think it is. I slid the photo back into the envelope. It's nothing you need to carry, Ellie. Her eyes narrowed. Don't you dare shut me out. Not after 2 men just showed up on our porch in the middle of the night. She was right, but the truth wasn't a weight I wanted her bearing. Still, I couldn't leave her blind. Back in SWAT, I led operations that were supposed to stay sealed. Some didn't end clean. Somebody's dug up the records. Karen doesn't just want to ruin us, she wants leverage. Ellie shook her head. Why? We just bought a cabin by the lake. What kind of HOA president pulls something like this? The kind that's used to control, I muttered, and the kind that isn't working alone anymore. I tucked the envelope into my jacket, then grabbed my old lockbox from under the bed. Inside were files I swore I'd never open again. Background checks, after-action reports, even a few sealed names. If Karen had one photo, she could have more. That meant leaks. Someone inside the system feeding her. Ellie caught the look on my face. You're thinking about going after them, aren't you? I zipped the lockbox shut. No, I'm thinking about protecting us. But if they push again, I'll respond. That night I barely slept. I replayed the men's smirks, their confidence. They weren't bluffing. They were sending a message. Karen owned the board, and I was just another pawn. At dawn, I walked down to the lake, needing air, needing distance. That's when I saw it. On the dock, nailed to one of the posts, was another envelope, this one wet from the morning dew. My pulse spiked as I tore it open. Inside was a photocopy of a report, one I recognized instantly. The Henderson case. My last operation before I left SWAT. The one with bodies. Ellie's voice carried from the porch, panicked. Jack, someone's car just pulled into the drive again. I looked up the hill, and my blood iced over. Karen herself stepped out of a silver SUV. Brett slouched beside her, grinning like he owned the world. Cliffhanger. Karen lifted her phone, snapped a picture of me holding the file, and smiled. Nice morning for secrets, isn't it, Commander? Karen's voice cut across the still air, sugar-sweet, but venom underneath. Funny thing about secrets, Jack. They always come back to shore, just like the lake scum. Brett barked out a laugh, leaning against the SUV like a dog on a leash. He kept his hands stuffed in his hoodie, but I could see the outline of a pistol pressing against the fabric. Ellie stepped out onto the porch, her hand trembling as she gripped the railing. Jack, what is this? I raised a hand toward her. Stay inside. My voice was steady, even though my pulse was a war drum in my chest. Karen tilted her head, snapping another photo of me with her phone. Relax, we're just neighbors stopping by for a friendly chat, unless you'd rather I send this little file you're holding to the local paper, or maybe the sheriff. Of course. She smiled wider. He already owes me a favor. I felt the weight of the photocopy in my hand. The Henderson case. The one that could ruin me, maybe even cost me my freedom if twisted the wrong way. I forced myself to meet her gaze. You're digging in places you don't understand, Karen. That file isn't leverage. It's a death sentence for anyone who holds it. Her smile faltered, just a flicker, but I saw it. She didn't expect me to push back. Brett muttered, He's bluffing. Karen waved him off, regaining her composure. Here's how this will work. Jack, you'll stop fighting the HOA, you'll stop filing complaints, you'll pay the fines, and in return, this little souvenir from your past stays between us. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. If you come onto my land again, if you so much as look at my wife wrong, there won't be enough favors in this county to protect you. For the first time, she looked rattled, but she recovered quickly, sliding her sunglasses on like she had the upper hand. Enjoy your morning, Commander. Oh, one more thing. She snapped her fingers, and Brett pulled something from his hoodie pocket. My gut tightened. It wasn't a pistol. It was Walter's mailbox key. Karen dangled it between two fingers. Your old friend down the road won't be needing this anymore. Seems he's under the weather. Ellie gasped behind me. What did you do to him? Karen just smiled, slid into her SUV and slammed the door. Brett tossed the key onto the gravel before climbing in after her. The tires spit rocks as they sped off. I stood frozen, the key glinting at my feet, rage boiling up hot and sharp. Ellie whispered, "Jack, what if Walters—" I didn't let her finish. I scooped up the key, shoved the file into my jacket, and strode toward the truck. Get inside, lock every door and window, don't open them for anyone but me. Where are you going? I checked the magazine in my sidearm, chambered around and slid it back into my holster. To see if my neighbor's still alive. Cliffhanger. Jack drives down the dirt road, heart pounding, and when he pulls up to Walter's cabin, its front door hangs open, the frame splintered, and blood smears across the porch steps. The crunch of gravel under my tires was the only sound on that dirt road. The pines loomed close on either side, swallowing sunlight, turning the morning into twilight. Every instinct told me to slow down, but I pressed it harder on the accelerator. Walter's place sat at the end of a crooked bend, a modest A-frame cabin with a deck he built himself. I'd shared beers on that porch. I'd watched Ellie laugh with her father there, eyes lit up by fireflies. Now the door was hanging open, jagged splinters punched out where the lock used to be. Blood streaked the steps in uneven smears. I killed the engine, slid out of the truck, and drew my Glock. Years of training came back in an instant, breath steady, finger off the trigger, eyes scanning the angles. "Walter," I called low, not wanting to shout but needing an answer. The silence pressed back like a weight. I moved up the steps, crouched low, more blood across the deck, a handprint on the rail. My stomach dropped. Inside, the cabin was chaos. A table flipped, a chair broken, the smell of gun oil and copper filled the air, and then— Jack. The rasp was so faint I thought I imagined it. But then I saw him. Walter, slumped against the wall by the fireplace, shirt soaked in red. His breath was ragged, shallow. His left hand trembled as he tried to press a dish towel against the wound in his side. I holstered the Glock and dropped beside him. "I've got you, old man. Stay with me." He tried to smile but coughed instead, blood flecking his lips. Told you those bastards don't play fair. Save your breath." I tore open the med kit I carried everywhere and worked fast. Gauze, pressure, tape. My hands shook, but muscle memory guided me. Walter winced, but gritted his teeth. They wanted me to talk. About you." Ice crawled down my spine. "What did you tell them?" His eyes found mine, clear, defiant, even in pain. "Not a damn thing." Before I could answer, a sound outside froze me. Tires on gravel. I slid the pistol free again, raised a finger to Walter. "Stay quiet." He nodded faintly. Through the cracked window, I caught in the sight of a dark SUV pulling up. Same one from my cabin. Doors opened. Boots hit the dirt. Two figures. Brett. And another man. Not Karen. This one was stockier, older, beard like barbed wire, carrying a shotgun. Brett's voice carried in through the broken door. "He's got to be here. The old man didn't shut up." Walter's eyes met mine again, fear hidden under fire. "Go, Jack," he whispered. "They'll kill you." I shook my head, shifting my stance by the doorframe. Glock aimed where the first shadow would appear. "No, this ends here." The boards creaked outside, heavy boots on the porch. A pause. Then the barrel of the shotgun edged into the doorway. I squeezed my grip, breath locked. And that's when the second shadow moved across the window, circling, flanking. They weren't here to scare me, they were here to finish it. Cliffhanger. Jack steadies his pistol, realizing he's about to be caught in a crossfire inside Walter's cabin. The cabin's silence fractured under the creak of boards. Two men, one circling the porch, the other pressing forward with a shotgun muzzle slipping into the doorway. My heartbeat slowed, training taking over. This wasn't panic, this was math. Angles, distance, timing. I dropped flat. Just as the first blast thundered, the shotgun blew splinters off the doorframe where my head had been a second earlier. The echo rattled through the woods. Walter grunted from the corner but stayed still, clutching the towel at his ribs. I rolled, came up on one knee, Glock steady. The shotgun's barrel jutted deeper into the cabin. I fired once, clean, sharp. The weapon clattered to the floor, its wielder cursing as his hand recoiled. "Brett! Inside! Now!" the bearded man shouted. Boots pounded across the porch. "Brett!" I grabbed Walter by the arm and dragged him across the floor behind the heavy oak table. Cover wasn't perfect, but it was better than nothing. My ears rang with the metallic tang of cordite. Brett's voice cracked from outside. "We know who you are, Rayner. You're not in uniform anymore. Nobody's coming to save you." "Funny," I muttered under my breath, lining up my next shot. "I don't remember asking for backup." The bearded man stormed the doorway, cradling his wounded hand but still dangerous. He reached for the shotgun on the floor. I put 2 rounds into the jam beside him. He jerked back, swearing, then glass shattered behind me. Brett. He'd smashed through the side window, boots crunching on the broken pane, pistol raised. I dove, shoving Walter down. Brett fired wild, rounds sparking off the fireplace stones. I came up fast, Glock aimed. Brett froze when he saw my eyes, steady, calm, unshaken. His own hand trembled. He wasn't a soldier, he was a thug with a toy. "Drop it," I barked. For a second, I thought he might, but pride, or fear of Karen, overrode sense. He squeezed. The shot went high. My return didn't. His pistol spun from his grip as he howled, clutching his shoulder. He stumbled backward into the broken glass, cursing. The bearded man yanked him out by the collar, both retreating fast toward the SUV. Tires screeched, gravel spit, and then they were gone. Silence crept back in. Only the smell of smoke, the drip of Walter's blood, and the ringing in my ears remained. I holstered the Glock, hands steady again. Training had carried me through another firestorm. But this wasn't over, not even close. Walter coughed, grimacing. They'll be back." "Yeah," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. No bars, no signal. My gut sank. I looked at Walter, then out the broken window at the stretch of forest where the SUV had vanished. My past wasn't buried anymore. Karen had dug it up, handed it to her thugs, and pointed them straight at us. And I'd just drawn the line in blood. Cliffhanger. Jack realizes the SUV didn't leave. Its engine hum vibrates faintly through the woods. They've circled back, surrounding the cabin.